Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 59. Fallen Soul. Daybreak, within the guest room. It's the same as Liu Jing's hypothesis, Chen Xing said. After Zhonglu obtained the Dinghai pearl, he sucked away all the spiritual qi of the heavens and the earth, and took Xiang Qianbei with him to kill the devil god. 3,000 years, when Feng Qianzhen heard that, he fell into a state of shock. This artifact lets people travel through time to 3,000 years in the past. Zuyan was the dragon god who controlled causality and space-time, and the legendary wheels of the heavens and the earth rotated under its dragon might. What the tide rings corresponded to was exactly the cycles of the divine vein of the heavens and the earth, and the rotation of those huge wheels of time caused the flow of years and passage of seasons within this realm. That was to say, Zhongliu's objective was to turn back time, and, together with Xiang Yuan, return to the conclusion of the Battle of Bongkan and once again use the Akala blade to completely destroy the remnants of the devil god. Then the events that followed are very clear, Chen Xing said. For reasons unknown, Xiang Yuan Qianbei instead arrived in the world of 300 years later and then chose to stay in Cai N. It went like this, right? Xiang Shu, like before, didn't say anything. He could not stay calm at the moment, having seen the fragments of memories that had been stored by the Luohun bell in this place. His mother was actually one of the ancients from 300 years ago. Chen Xing stroked the back of Xiang Shu's hand, thinking in his heart that Xiang Shu needed a moment to digest this information, so he stopped discussing it further. Even though this connection with Xiang Yuan had become undeniably clear, a more pressing question had emerged. Xiang Yuan appeared on her own in Cai, so where did Zhonglu go? What happened to the Dinghai pearl? Why did Xiang Yuan, who had originally decided to travel to 3,000 years in the past with Zhonglu, arrive instead at the Qi Le Chuan of 300 years later due to a malfunction? Everyone there temporarily forgot that they were being chased by the drought fiend kings, and the room filled with a contemplative silence. Chen Xing mixed the medicine for Xiang Shu, and after it was done simmering, handed him the bowl, saying, "First drink this medicine. Even though we've found the most important connection, we still haven't escaped the danger." Xiang Shu barely managed to nod. Everyone had gone through a whole day and night of running for their lives, and they were all exhausted. Feng Qianzhen didn't even bother with taking off his robes, choosing instead to lie down on the ground and fall asleep. Xiang Shu also slumped on the bed for a while. Chen Xing reached his hand out to hug Xiao Shan. At first, Xiao Shan was a little reluctant, as if his anger hadn't yet dissipated. But finally he caved, crawling to Chen Xing's side and lying down. Chen Xing stroked Xiao Shan's head. Before, there were too many things to take care of, but now that he could finally have a proper talk with Xiao Shan, what could he say? At this point, there was no need to say any more. Took a boat, Xiao Shan suddenly spoke. I took a boat to get here. Chen Xing, what? Xiao Shan unhappily said, I took a boat, from Goryeo to Jiangnan. Chen Xing. Chen Xing suddenly sat up straight, remembering that Xiao Shan was responding to his "How did you get here" from a long time ago, and exclaimed in surprise, You've learned how to speak the Han language. Still unhappy, Xiao Shan responded, Yeah, what about it? Chen Xing. Despite the briefness of their interactions in the beginning at Karakoram, Chen Xing had still managed to teach Xiao Shan quite a few words. At that time Xiao Shan didn't get the chance to practice much before Chen Xing was kidnapped, and when Xiang Shu returned to Karakoram to pack his luggage, he left Xiao Shan in the care of the Xiongnu tribe leader. Without even saying goodbye, he took a fast horse and went to save Chen Xing. Xiao Shan slept at Karakoram for several days as the Xiongnu people used their herbal medicine to treat his external wounds. After waking, he immediately rushed after Xiang Shu to find Chen Xing. At the beginning of their journey, Xiao Shan could only say Chen Xing, but as he met more people, he learned a lot of new words, and what Chen Xing taught him, he retained as well. Little kids pick up on new languages very quickly, and when they arrived in Goryeo, he could already carry on basic conversations. After learning that Xiang Shu and Chen Xing were taking a boat down to Jiangnan, Xiao Shan also found another boat and snuck on board to hide. The captain of that ship was a Han. He quickly discovered the stowaway Xiao Shan, and after seeing that he was a pretty and intelligent child, the captain obviously didn't throw him into the sea to feed the fishes. On his person, Xiao Shan carried several valuable accessories from the Xiangnua people, so the people aboard guessed that he was no ordinary person. They loosely tied him up with some rope in the beginning, and towards the end of the trip, the captain even often sought him out to talk in an effort to stave off boredom. Xiao Shan's vocabulary increased the more he spoke, and his words carried a hint of the Wurong dialect. He could ask for directions, he could buy food, he knew he should stay at inns, and he even knew how to exchange money at pawn shops. Time flies when you're apart. After being apart from them for half a year, he had even grown a head taller after eating well on the ship. Upon arriving at Kuiji, Xiao Shan began to inquire after Chen Xing and Xiang Shu's whereabouts. Chen Xing could only sigh, saying, "You actually. I am so infuriated with you." Xiao Shan raged. "You don't want me anymore." Chen Xing hurriedly shushed Xiao Shan so that he would avoid waking the heavily slumbering Xiang Shu and Feng Qianjun. Hugging Xiao Shan in his embrace, he gently stroked his head, licking the top of it. After releasing him, Chen Xing watched Xiao Shan with a smile. "It wasn't that I didn't want you," Chen Xing said quietly. "I was captured, wasn't I? You also knew that. I was actually trying to find a time to send a letter to Sai Wai to bring you over here." Chen Xing understood very clearly that Xiao Shan's unhappiness stemmed from how Chen Xing left just like that, leaving him alone in Karakoram. But what could he have done? He could only pretend that everything was all right by not bringing it up anymore. After smiling for a while, Chen Xing felt his nose go a bit sour. Xiao Shan was so angry he almost cried. He laid on the ground with his arms and legs spread apart, still with the dragon claws on his hands, tossing and turning in the throes of his tantrum. Shh. Chen Xing hurried to calm Xiao Shan from his tantrum, saying, "Since you're here now, it's all right." At this, Xiao Shan finally turned his head to look at Chen Xing. Chen Xing glanced at Xiang Shu, and in a tiny voice said, "There are still more than 2 years left. Xiao Shan, it's not that I'm not willing to take care of you." Xiao Shan. Chen Xing debated for a while in his heart, but in the end he still gave up on telling Xiao Shan the reasoning behind his decisions. Even Xiang Shu didn't know, so what would be the purpose of telling Xiao Shan? "There are still 2 years left before what?" Xiang Shu asked as he lifted his head, his forehead wrinkled in disapproval. Clearly he hadn't actually been sleeping at all. Chen Xing almost replied with "It's nothing," but this answer would lead to even more suspicion, so he immediately changed his answer. "I was saying that there's still more than 2 years before I would have returned to Chi Le Chuan to get him." Xiang Shu didn't say anything more, simply lying back down, letting out a sigh of exhaustion. Chen Xing said, "Go to sleep, we can talk more after waking." "Xiao Shan, you must also be tired." He stroked Xiao Shan's forehead as Xiao Shan finally quieted down. Xiao Shan kicked Chen Xing once out of spite before burrowing into his embrace. "Oh," Chen Xing said. "You've suddenly grown much taller." Kids at this age grew so quickly that every day they would look completely different from how they looked the day before. They shot up like new bamboo in the spring. Chen Xing thought to himself that this Xiangnu youth could one day be taller than Xiang Shu. If he was taller than Chen Xing, then what kind of message would they send if Xiao Shan still clung to him while he slept? It's best if he took this opportunity to adjust Xiao Shan's sleeping position, laying him down flat on the ground instead of letting him sprawl on Chen Xing's shoulder to sleep. Xiao Shan also didn't persist in staying awake, and soon silence blanketed the room. After running for their lives for a whole day and a night, they were understandably exhausted, and all of the present members quickly fell asleep. It wasn't until the sun had risen to the height of 3 bamboo poles that the owner of the house finally awoke and sent people to invite Chen Xing to partake of lunch. Chen Xing's eyes were still filled with the haze of sleep, but he woke everyone else in time. When they arrived at the dining hall, they discovered that there were still quite a number of inhabitants in the Fang manor. Wives and concubines with entire herds of sons and daughters sat there, but all of them were still caught in the hazy grasp of sleep, barely managing to muster enough energy to duck their heads and eat their congee, their eyes empty of spirit. The owner spoke with little strength when greeting them before asking the old housekeeper, "Who is the renowned doctor?" This was the first time Chen Xing had seen a plague-ridden individual. When compared with Xiang Shu, there was a clear difference in the symptoms. Xiang Shu was drinking his medicine quietly. His body had recovered a little, and it seemed like he was musing over something. After eating, Feng Qianjun rose to go get ready. He was preparing to return to the Zifeng Bank. "I am." Chen Xing rolled up his sleeves, saying, "Let me take a look at you." Yesterday night he had already questioned the youth, so now Chen Xing merely took the pulse of the Fang family patriarch. After a careful examination, he discovered that the situation was exactly as Xie Dayun had described. The pulse was completely normal, and nothing was out of the ordinary. "When you first contracted the illness, did you see any people or eat anything weird?" Chen Xing asked. "Did you feel there was anything strange?" The Fang family head had been infected the year before, so now even as he endeavored to recall his past memories, he couldn't remember them clearly anymore. Xiang Shu was drinking his medicine as he was thinking. He waited until he put down the medicine bowl before uttering a sentence. "When you first got ill, did you hear the chime of a bell?" Chen Xing. Chen Xing suddenly looked towards Xiang Shu. "The chime of a bell? The Luohun bell?" Many of the symptoms of this plague, in this moment, started to become clear. The supposed symptom of the patient's being in low spirits, wasn't that referring to a situation where a Hun was forcibly removed? "The chime of a bell," the Fang family head said. "I can't remember clearly anymore." Xiang Shu said to Chen Xing, "The night you got drunk, I seem to remember hearing the sound of a bell." At Jiankong, Chen Xing let go of the family head's pulse point and studiously asked, "Why didn't I hear it?" "You were so drunk you were confused," Xiang Shu said. "Obviously you wouldn't hear it." It was just then when Feng Qianjun returned, saying, "You've figured out something? Let's go back to Zifeng and discuss there." Chen Xing placated the Fang family for a bit, informing them that perhaps it wouldn't be long before they would have a result, and that in the meantime they should continue taking their medicine like before and stay within Kuiji. Feng Qianjun was afraid that the enemies would come again, so he called for a carriage and had the 3 others climb on from the backyard. Before he spoke, "I used some money to get the children in the city to mobilize. All of them have slingshots, and as soon as they see a crow they'll hit it with some rocks. We don't know if the Drought Fiend Kings are still hiding within the city, but at least with this, they shouldn't return to seek revenge for a while." Before Xiang Shu got on the carriage, he couldn't help but gaze in the direction of the Fang family manor entrance for a while with a desolate look. The horse cart wobbled as it continued forward. Chen Xing glanced at Xiang Shu as Xiao Shan yawned in the background, evidently not fully awake yet. He curled up in the carriage and went back to sleep. Chen Xing knew that Xiang Shu was still thinking about what happened last night, and just as he was opening his mouth to spout a few consoling platitudes, Xiang Shu said, "Did the heart lamp find me only because I was also born from an exorcist family?" Chen Xing sank into a contemplative silence for a few seconds before responding, "I don't know, Protector, but I have come to realize in my ponderings that many things are fated to be. Your great-grandmother also said that the heart lamp and the Akala blade must coexist, so maybe that is why we met." Xiang Shu said, "The first time I saw that blade, I felt like it was a little familiar, as if it was calling to me." Chen Xing cheerfully smiled, saying, "Then I guess I can confirm, you really want to be my protector now." Xiang Shu lightly furrowed his brows. "What I did on this trip hasn't been enough. Chen Xing hurriedly replied, "Thank you, I didn't have any other motives when I said that, but the whereabouts of the Dinghai pearl, we still need to." The two of them stopped speaking for a bit. Chen Xing suddenly realized that since the time he had been kidnapped by Sima Wei at the foot of the mountain, Xiang Shu had become extremely careful with him, only rarely leaving his gaze. "Kajera is going to the north," Xiang Shu suddenly said. "What do you think he's looking for?" This question of Xiang Shu's opened up a new train of thought in Chen Xing's mind. "Is he searching for your mother?" Chen Xing asked. "What befell Zhonglu is unclear, but your mother ended up 300 years in the future, and Kajera had traveled to the north multiple times. Could he be constantly tracing your mother's whereabouts? From this perspective, Shihai and company could also be looking for the Dinghai pearl. Did they know what Zhonglu wanted to do? 300 years ago, had both sides briefly met and had a confrontation? The yin-yang mirror was originally in Zhongliu's hands," Xiang Shu said, "but our first time seeing it was in Feng Tian Ye's hands." Chen Xing realized. Yes, Shihai and them must have found Zhonglu. They thwarted his plans. The carriage with its 4 passengers arrived at its destination, the Zifeng Bank. All of them took the chance to change into a fresh set of clothing, all except for Xiao Shan, who kept sleeping on without a care in the world. Chen Xing waited until they had sat down to drink tea before beginning to organize his thoughts from last night. First, Zhonglu took the Dinghai pearl and left Kuiji, Chen Xing said. They must have fought with Shihai and lost, or the yin-yang mirror wouldn't have ended up in Shiha's hands. Wu, Feng Qunjun said. The goal of these fellows is to revive Chu, so this series of events makes a lot of sense. Xiang Shu pondered without speaking, and then said, "Perhaps it was exactly because of this encounter that my mother was sent to 300 years in the future." With this, everything fell neatly into place. Chen Xing asked, "But where is the Dinghai pearl now?" "I think it's not in Shiha's hands," Feng Qunjun said. "That kind of powerful artifact, if he had it, he would have annihilated everything by now." Xiang Shu said, "It's not in my mother's hands, since she hadn't brought it with her. I'm very certain of this point." Chen Xing furrowed his brow without speaking, before saying, "Could it be that Zhonglu is dead, but before he died he managed to hide the Dinghai pearl in some location to prevent it from falling into Shiha's hands?" Xiang Shu said, "Do you still remember those 3 maps?" Chen Xing pulled out the aforementioned maps. The first one was of Karasha, which could already be eliminated from the list. "Oh!" Feng Qunjun said. "Isn't this the map of the Qixingtan from Mount Nanping?" Xiang Shu. Chen Xing. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Chen Xing in this moment really wanted to smack Feng Qunjun to death. "You guys didn't ask me," Feng Qunjun said. "Shh." Xiao Shan had still been sleeping when he was rudely awakened, so he flipped over, furiously shushing them. Xiang Shu said, "That day, at the exorcism department, you didn't see it." Feng Qunjun, "At that time I didn't think of this at all." Xiao Shan, shh. Shh. Chen Xing finally complied, lowering his voice before saying, "Wait, let's first think this through, what each of these 3 maps means. Karasha is where the Dinghai pearl is found, Mount Nanping should be a good place to cast spells." "Correct." Feng Qunjun thought about it for a moment, saying, "It's said that Mount Nanping is a blessed spot, and it was originally the spot where Kongming cast magic to borrow the east wind. He was also an exorcist." Xiang Shu didn't understand much about the Han people, but the renowned Zhuliang was someone even he knew about. "Maybe." Chen Xing waved his hand, saying, "That isn't important. According to this train of reasoning, the second location, it could be the 3rd spot of interest." "Check again? Is it in Jiangnan?" "That is something we can't determine right now," Feng Qunjun said. Xiang Shu said, "You'd better not wait for another 1.5 years before telling me you suddenly remembered." Feng Qianjun agonized, now that you all have said it, even if I remembered I wouldn't dare to say it, all right. Chen Xing recalled the memories that Xiang Yuan had left behind, specifically the phrase "find a blessed spot to take in the heaven and earth energy" that Zhang Lu had uttered. Mount Nanping, then, could have been a spot where he used the Dinghai pearl to take in all the energy in that place. The third place then, maybe it was where an array was placed, activating the Dinghai pearl and sending them back to the coordinates of the array from 3,000 years ago. Mount Nanping was thankfully somewhere they could skip going to, since the most important thing was still figuring out the last location. But if there were traces of Zhang Liu's and Xiang Yuan's movements in Mount Nanping, it wouldn't hurt to go take a look. However, at the moment it would be difficult to leave unauthorized, so they had to first solve the issue of the plague. When Xiang Yuan left, she brought with her the Luohun bell. Judging by the whereabouts of the yin-yang mirror, they could basically confirm that the Luohun bell must also be in Shi Ha's hands. This artifact, which could easily call away Hunpo with a single shake, was very powerful, but Chen Xing was not even the least bit afraid. If Xiang Shu was correct, then that day Shi Hai had already tried to use the Luohun bell on him and Xiang Shu, but the results were that Chen Xing was perfectly fine, and Xiang Shu, despite having some strange side effects, still had his 3 hun perfectly intact, and all he lost was some strength. Perhaps the reason was that the heart lamp protected the 3 hun? At this point another person arrived to visit. It was a patient that one of the Zifeng underlings had brought, the merchant that Chen Xing had been investigating, the one who, after returning from my city, was the first to experience the symptom of losing his hun and po. Chen Xing closely observed his state, only to see that he looked extremely exhausted, but still kept his spirits up. As soon as he heard there was a miracle doctor here, he figured it wouldn't hurt to try, and arrived at the Zifeng Bank. Chen Xing didn't bother with taking his pulse, instead asking, "When you contracted the illness, did you hear the sound of a bell?" The sound of a bell? That person wore the same look of confused suspicion as the Fang Manor owner. After thinking about it, he said, "Seems like there was, but it seems like I can't remember clearly anymore." "When you keeled over, where were you?" Chen Xing asked again. The merchant had already been interrogated so many times over this that aside from the sound of the bell, he could clearly recall the details, and once again he delivered his statement. That day he was originally returning from my city to Kuiji, but when he entered the city he suddenly felt sleepy and fell off the back of his horse. Even after being sent to his home, he didn't get better, but rather laid on his bed asleep for 3 days, his mind wandering and unclear. Just like that kid over there, the merchant looked towards Xiao Shan, who was sleeping on the bed. "Hey, you see, how long has he been ill? So pitiful, at such a young age too." Xiao Shan blearily opened an eye and took a look at him. "Xiao Shan," Chen Xing said, "weren't you here to see a doctor? Why are you now giving others diagnoses? Are you the doctor, or am I? Okay, you should go back and rest, don't leave Kuiji for these few days." The merchant left, and the 3 of them looked at each other. Finally they had discovered the reason for the plague, or, it'd be more accurate to say that this was not a plague at all. Rather, someone had used the Luohun bell to take away tens of thousands of earth huns of the common citizens living in the Jiangnan area. "As long as we find the Luohun bell and release the Hunpo inside," Chen Xing said, "they should be able to recover." "But where is this bell?" When the 3 drought fiend kings had been pursuing them, they hadn't carried any artifacts with them. Xiang Shu remembered at Chang'an and Qi Le Chuan, at that time it was Feng Tian Ye who was controlling the yin-yang mirror, and Zhou Zhen holding the zhang drum, while the drought fiend kings had only been assisting. That was to say, behind the 3 drought fiend kings, there was still another person controlling them. "We need to find out who this person is," Xiang Shu said. "When we find the Luohun bell, I can recover my energy." Xiang Shu had been holding back for too long, and he had long before wished to smack Shi Hai around many times over for the suffering he had inflicted. As soon as he recovered his energy, the drought fiend kings would definitely suffer. That. You should calm down a little, Chen Xing said. Feng Yunjun hugged his arms, saying, this person could also be hiding in Jiangnan like my big brother, except it's very difficult to figure out his identity. Never mind that we're being pursued right now, as long as he has some intelligence, he wouldn't reveal himself at this moment. Xiang Shu then said, the scenes that we saw within my mother's memories, when the Luohun bell was casting its magic, showed that there is always a trace to follow. Remember the butterfly that formed out of that hun? If we can set up an ambush and wait for this person to use the bell to cast the magic, then chase where the butterfly is going. Flower, Xiao Shan suddenly said. I have it. The three of them abruptly stopped speaking, all of them looking at Xiao Shan. Xiao Shan understood a portion of what they were talking about. Basically, he understood that anything to do with that glowing butterfly was something important, so he pulled out several dried blossoms from his chest pocket, giving them to Chen Xing. Chen Xing. Yesterday night I wanted to ask, Xiang Shu said, why did the memories, which had turned into a glowing butterfly, land on this specific flower? Chen Xing said, this is called the Lihun flower, you guys better keep your distance. This kind of flower only grows where the spiritual qi of the earth is, and the pollen contains a strange effect of the divine vein of the earth. After a person dies, the hunpo will always be called towards the heavens as they enter into the rotations of the heaven and earth pulse. You guys understand? This kind of suction power inherent to the heaven and earth pulse has also been called the power of Lihun, and just like a flowing river, it'll carry the stones along the bank with it, so. Get to the main point. Xiang Shu said, impatient. Why are you being this fierce? Chen Xing said, gently smiling. You want to hit me again? You can't beat me right now though. Xiang Shu. Feng Yunjun. After a little bit of silence, Feng Yunjun said, Xiang Xiangdi, a gentleman gets his revenge, even if it takes 10 years. Xiang Shu patiently said, can you please get to the main point? All right. Chen Xing explained, this is called the Lihun power, and this kind of flower will take in your memories. The pollen makes people sneeze, and then afterwards, bafflingly, they will have forgotten many things. So the butterfly that forms out of the earth hun, Xiang Shu asked, will also be drawn to this flower. Maybe. Chen Xing said. The earth hun of all these people that were taken away by the Luohun bell, could they be it? In the Jiangnan area, is there any place where this kind of flower would grow? The Xiang family of 300 years ago, where did the flower in that mother's hand come from? Xiang Shu, you are too smart. You are really too smart. End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 60. The bottom of the well. As Chen Xing spoke, he also felt that he had come across a lead. Before his eyes, he could almost see a strange vision of some place filled with these Lihun flower, and the earth hun that had been taken from those 10,000 plus people by the Luohun bell turned into butterflies that hovered and landed within the flower sea. Wait, what did they need the strength of this many earth hun for? The Xiang family must have records. Chen Xing said. They were focused on researching spiritual spots, they did that for a living. Feng Dage. Let's go there once again. Feng Yunjun said, I'll send people to purchase the rest of the Fang family's scrolls so we can study them here. That night, the rest of the scrolls from the Fang family were sent over. Feng Yunjun and Chen Xing began to investigate. Xiao Shan joined them for a bit, but Xiang Shu, who couldn't read the seal script, was forced to stand to one side and stare off into the distance. Find the earth vein, any records relating to the earth vein, Chen Xing said to Xiao Shan. I'll write out the characters for you, it's these 2 words. I know. Xiao Shan impatiently shouted. I'm not an idiot. Chen Xing couldn't help but think of Xiao Shan as that child he had met at Karasha. Gradually, he had forgotten that Xiao Shan already understood a lot of things. Xiang Shu said, he just likes to treat other people like idiots. Chen Xing could only give up on explaining, but not even a second later, Feng Qianzhen said, Chen Xing, take a look at this one. Chen Xing spread out the silk scroll. On it was a map of the general area of Kuiji and Jiankong. The city boundaries of hundreds of years ago had shifted and changed greatly to what they were in the modern day, yet on that map, there were faded orange marks from a cinnabar stick, tracing out a strange formation. The earth vein flows towards, Chen Xing mumbled, the location is in the city of Kuiji, this should be an entryway. Chen Xing pointed towards a specific section. Feng Qianzhen consulted the map of modern-day Kuiji before saying, let's figure out a time to go there and take a look. Let's go now. Xiang Shu didn't want to wait any longer, he had had enough. The spot that the ancient map marked out was in the northern part of the city. In the dead of the night, they prepared themselves, arming themselves with their weapons. The four of them followed the map until they found one of the entrances to the earth vein. Coincidentally, it was behind the county official's manor, within an ancient well at the foot of the mountain, and sneaking into the manor was not difficult for them. I'll go first to scout. Feng Qianzhen tied a rope around his waist, dangling over the well. You guys wait up top. Xiao Shan glanced at the well before lazily taking a few aimless steps, peering curiously at the surroundings. Xiao Shan, where are you going now? Chen Xing said. Xiang Shu inspected the surroundings. There were no crows, and the drought fiend kings hadn't shown themselves for a whole day and a night now, but there was a persistent feeling of uneasiness. Perhaps that group was currently hiding in some dark corner, plotting how to defeat them. Why is the entrance so coincidentally located in the official's manor? Xiang Shu suddenly asked. There's quite a few entrances, Chen Xing said. We just happened to pick the closest one. Don't be so paranoid about everything. Xiao Shan, come back. Xiao Shan's curiosity was really too strong, whatever he saw, he wanted to poke it. This time, it seemed like he had heard some noise, so he tiptoed over to the east side of the official's manor and leaned his body against the wall outside of the windowsill, peeking into the room inside. Chen Xing originally wanted to stop him, but then he remembered Xiang Shu's worries. What if there really was a connection between the Drought Fiend Kings and Wu Qi? What are you looking at? Chen Xing very quietly asked. Xiao Shan motioned for Chen Xing to come quickly, and soon the two of them were huddling outside the windowsill looking in. Inside was a scene that had Chen Xing very confused. A Jin martial official and one of Wu Qi's scribes were tightly hugging each other without a sliver of distance between them, and the scribe was panting uncontrollably. Xiao Shan held his breath, his face filled with suspicion. He looked at Chen Xing, then looked inside, as if he was asking, what are they doing? Chen Xing watched the two men inside. At first he also didn't understand since the light in the room was dim, until Xiang Shu also followed over, hunching over to huddle up next to them and take a look. Xiang Shu! Xiao Shan! Xiang Shu immediately covered Xiao Shan's eyes and dragged him away. Chen Xing at this moment recovered his wits. Two men. His entire face flushed red, and Xiang Shu just had to pretend he hadn't noticed. Xiao Shan, what is going on? He's murdering someone. Don't ask any more. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing said simultaneously. He's not murdering anyone, Chen Xing said. Quickly forget it, you didn't see anything. Xiao Shan. There's a path in the bottom of the well. Feng Qianzhen was at the bottom tugging on the rope, saying, come down and take a look. It's a dry waterway. Xiao Shan slid down first. Xiang Shu stood at the edge of the well and wrapped the rope around his hand twice. He then reached his hand out to Chen Xing so that Chen Xing could hug him as they went down. Chen Xing's brain was filled with that scene from just now, and as he climbed up onto the edge, he subconsciously slipped. Xiang Shu immediately hugged him, and the two of them slid down the rope. Chen Xing and Xiang Shu were pressed very close, and suddenly Chen Xing felt something poking him. Did Xiang Shu's body have some sort of reaction? It was as if the passion of the scene from just now hadn't entirely passed, and like this Chen Xing felt even more awkward. Feng Yunjun was completely in the dark about what had happened above. In the inky darkness of the old well, gusts of wind blew past them from some point in the distance. Xiang Shu took a moment to straighten his clothing as Chen Xing lit up the heart lamp, pointing it towards the water source. Where the light shone, a dark passageway appeared. Xiang Shu pressed down on Chen Xing's head, indicating that he should look down towards the ground, where there was a thin, glowing crack. Feng Yunjun knelt on one knee to poke at the crack with a finger, and the light that shone through was like light flickering off a chunk of fluorite hidden within the dirt. With Feng Yunjun leading the way, they pushed forward, only to see that the light continued to grow brighter. They walked for an indeterminate distance, and the four walls of the cave slowly filled with glowing crevices. "This is the earth vein," Chen Xing said. "It is the counterpart to the divine vein. It's the flow of the great river under our feet, in the earth below." Feng Yunjun tried to use Sen Luo Wangxiang, but he had no way to pull out any of the energy from the earth vein. Chen Xing explained to them that the divine veins held what was considered the energy of the highest grade of spiritual qi. It supported the rotation of the entirety of the divine land, and like a cornerstone, it was fundamentally different from the mana that was lost to them. The earth vein was originally buried deep within the ground, and under normal circumstances it wouldn't appear, but in places where the rock layer was thin, it could peek out of the earth just a smidge. Where it surged out, it would bring with it the spiritual qi, creating areas of distorted energy, and these areas were what people commonly called spiritual spots. The four people walked over the dried riverbed under the ground. Hundreds of years ago, this place had been an underground waterway for the Kuiji region. As the earth vein grew stronger, the underground cavern also became more spacious, and on the banks of the dry riverbed, amazingly enough, Lihun flowers appeared. "It's here." Feng Yunjun motioned for Chen Xing to look, and it was evident that their guess had been proven correct. "Xiang Xiangdi? Are you all right?" As Xiang Shu walked along the earth vein, his breathing grew more labored. At the end he felt even more powerless, barely managing to wave his hand. "In this direction. I feel it." Chen Xing worriedly watched Xiang Shu and hurried over to support him, asking, "Should we turn back?" Xiang Shu shook his head as he leaned on Chen Xing's shoulder. He responded, "It's not important, let's go. Listen to me." A glowing butterfly stopped on one of the petals. Xiao Shan waved his claws, and the butterfly flapped its wings, gently fluttering into the depths of the cavern. The interior of the cavern was already filled with the light from the earth vein. Chen Xing put away the heart lamp, focusing on carefully supporting Xiang Shu. As they walked, the Lihun flowers increased in number. Chen Xing reminded them, "Pay attention and make sure that you don't touch them, or you'll sneeze." Xiao Shan suddenly tilted his head as if he heard something, and he sped up his footsteps as if he wanted to run to the end of the river path. However, Chen Xing was long since prepared, and, as fast as lightning, he grabbed Xiao Shan, saying, "Don't run about." Xiao Shan really was too disobedient. Chen Xing securely fastened a length of rope to his own body, and with his other hand he snagged Xiao Shan's belt with a hook that was tied to the other end of the rope. "Xiao Shan! Chen Xing, you're forbidden from randomly touching things, or next time we won't bring you." Xiao Shan could only begrudgingly obey. The four of them moved like a strange unit as they carefully climbed down into the dry riverbed. Walking along it, they heard the sound of water gurgling up ahead, and as they turned the corner they saw a small creek flowing through a cavern that was even larger and brighter than the one they were now in. The light shone harshly onto their faces, and in front of them a vast sea of Lihun flowers appeared. Feng Yunjun suddenly turned around, pulling Chen Xing and Xiang Shu with him in a sideways leap, all three of them hiding in the shadow of a naturally formed stone pillar. At the junction of several underground rivers, the water sparkled brilliantly, reflecting the brightness of the earth vein. The reflection's light revealed the two sides of the river bank covered with lihun flowers. In the bewitchingly blue light, the sea of flowers was filled with butterflies formed from hunpo. The center of the river was split by a single sandbank. In the middle of the sandbank was a huge array that shone with light as it drew mana from the butterflies in that vast sea, and in the midst of it appeared a giant snake with a single broken horn growing from its head. Resentment permeated the room, flooding their senses. "What is that?" Feng Yunjun gestured, letting Chen Xing look. Chen Xing quietly and swiftly said, "I understand now, they're using hunpo to replace the spiritual qi of the heavens and the earth to power the array. Then they used the sea of lihun flowers to trap these hunpos so that they can't leave. I'm not asking about that. Look." Feng Yunjun said in a hushed voice. Chen Xing and Xiao Shan stuck their heads out, only to see two people standing on the edge of the array. One of them was a woman wearing a set of elaborate clothing, and on the side of her face was the same mask that they had previously seen. The other one, who was facing sideways from their view, was a scribe who held a folded fan in his hand. Xiang Shu's back was to the stone pillar as he panted, seemingly in great agony. "Xiang Shu?" Chen Xing quietly asked. The closer they got to where they were now, the more pain Xiang Shu felt. Chen Xing looked again at the bell the woman was holding, and it was indeed the Luohun bell. He said quietly towards Feng Yunjun, "That is a jiao, where did they manage to find one?" After the silence of all magic, very few snakes have managed to cultivate to become jiao. Feng Yunjun gestured to him to be more quiet. Even in this palm-sized city, the woman ridiculed, "You can lose people while pursuing them." As soon as the woman opened her mouth, Chen Xing and Feng Yunjun felt immediate shock. Chen Xing mouthed the words Wenzhe, and Feng Yunjun nodded his head. That scribe's voice was hoarse, and his body was wreathed in black fire as he responded, "Feng Yunjun has his people attacking my eyes and ears all over the place, so it's too hard to figure out where they went. We can only wait until after dark for the Drought Fiend Kings to split up and search the area." "Where are the Drought Fiend Kings?" Wenzhe asked. When they appeared they were full of murderous intent, and they looked very imposing, but within the blink of an eye they've squirreled themselves away again. That scribe explained, "Jiangnan is not under my control. If they appear too many times, sooner or later they will alert our enemies, so I had them temporarily hide in a family's woodshed." "You let these three subordinates hide in a common woodshed?" Wenzhe replied in disbelief. "Why exactly do you want Chen Xing and Shulikong? In my opinion, after returning to Jiankong, you should have lured those people in and ended them all in one fell swoop. It would make things much easier, and then if you needed them later, you could turn them into drought fiends. What difference would there be then?" The scribe shook open the fan and waved it once, and the resentment, as if it was something tangible, diffused away. He weakly protested, "You don't see the full picture. My lord needs a suitable vessel in order to revive successfully. Originally, I picked out the candidate body as the wielder of the heart lamp." Chen Xing. Wenzhe smiled scornfully. The scribe slowly continued, "After an artifact is refined by resentment, it will reveal a markedly different appearance. This is a fact you know as well. My lord's new body naturally must rely on the strongest artifact in the world. The heart lamp is an artifact that can dominate a person's heart. After getting it and being able to refine it, turning it into the dark lamp instead, the body would become my lord's new vessel. Then, he would have the power to dominate the wishes of all the common people in the world. At that time, would anyone be able to fight back against this kind of power?" Wenzhe said, "It's a pity then, that despite your many machinations, your plans still fell through." The scribe said, "Only because I already have a better candidate who can fully replace the heart lamp. I can't stay here and gossip, I need to quickly return." "Wait." Wenzhe said. "What is the meaning of you handing this pile of rubbish off to me?" The scribe's hoarse voice responded, "Follow the old plan." "Follow what old plan?" Wenzhe said. "I don't want to keep waiting. When will Fujian finally come? The scribe said, when the Qin troops head south for battle, naturally I will inform you. The 3 drought kings will temporarily stay here for you to command. Wen Zhe said, what use do I have for these stupid trash drought kings that hide for 3 days in the woodshed and can only come out at night to find someone? The scribe replied, I also don't want to, but right now my mana is not strong enough to hold out for long. I must first return to resolve our number 1 issue, or they will sooner or later find out that I'm using necromancy. I'm leaving now. Wen Zhe, do not take any rash actions. Remember, that was how Fei Tian Ye fell just short of his goal. As he was speaking, the scribe raised the folding fan in his hand, and the resentment rose towards the sky, turning into a black firestorm. It wrapped around him before burrowing into the earth vein below, disappearing without a trace. At the very last second, Feng Qianjun risked being seen by the enemy to stick his head out and catch a glimpse of him from far away. But in that moment, the scribe's face was already shadowed by the black energy as he turned into evil fire and flew away along the earth vein. Chen Xing followed suit by sticking his own head out, but Feng Qianjun shook his head, even as the hand that was pressing on the handle of his blade was shaking. Chen Xing pressed down on that wrist, shaking his head. He knew that Feng Qianjun was emotionally distraught because he was just separated by a step from the man who was manipulating his brother from the shadows. But now was definitely not a suitable time to rush forward and start a fight. Chen Xing pointed at the artifact and mouthed, Luohun Bell. He needed to first retrieve this artifact. We're currently thinking of ideas. Xiang Shu? Hang in there. Chen Xing inspected Xiang Shu. He was still visibly in a lot of pain, his forehead was covered with sweat, and his eyes were closed as he panted uncontrollably, as if he had a high fever. I'll go draw the enemy away, Feng Qianjun quietly said. Xiao Shan, you're in charge of stealing the artifact. Don't step on the Lihun flowers. Chen Xing said. Let me remind you once more that this is a very important point. Feng Qianjun nodded before dodging behind another pillar. Chen Xing quietly said to Xiao Shan, in a bit when Feng Dage makes his move, you go up there to steal the artifact. I understood. Xiao Shan said in a small voice. You don't need to repeat it again. Chen Xing put his hands together, quietly asking Iupitor to watch over them. At this time Wen Zhe held the Luohun bell in one hand, which gradually lowered to one side as she walked slowly into the array. Sorrow flooded that face as she reached out a hand to stroke the huge Jiao. Half of its body had already turned into a rotting corpse. Feng Qianjun stood behind the pillar. With a sword in each hand, he drew a circle, arching his body and jumping out with a shua sound. Go! Chen Xing quietly said. Xiao Shan put on his claws, and with an arch of his body, also rushed out with a shiu sound. Closely following behind, Chen Xing was dragged out by the rope that he had fastened around his own waist. Wait! Chen Xing loudly cried, I forgot to untie the rope. Wen Zhe whipped around to look, only to see Feng Qianjun rushing in front of her, the light scattering off his blade. Xiao Shan also pulled up on the rope that was trailing on the ground, causing Chen Xing to slide towards them, and with his claw, Xiao Shan reached for her right wrist. Wen Zhe never guessed that 3 exorcists would rush into this base camp at once. In a split second her face lost all its color, and closely following she let loose a loud shout, angrily saying, Feng Qianjun! You villain! Immediately after, she flipped over in the air, dodging the light of Feng Qianjun's attack, retaliating by throwing out a soft whip that wrapped around Feng Qianjun's wrist, pulling him into the array. With her right hand she shook the Luohun bell, and with a clear dang she parried the claw attack from Xiao Shan's Kangsheng Yuli. At the moment the bell sounded, all of the glowing butterflies flapped their wings at once. As if they had received a summons, they began to move. Wen Zhe stuck the landing, standing firmly while holding the Luohun bell. Looking in the direction of the 3 people with eyes filled with horror, she asked, How did you all get in here? I heard it all. Chen Xing angrily said. The discussion between you and Shihai, I heard it all very clearly. Quickly. Xiao Shan. First untie the rope. Chen Xing followed the rope up to Xiao Shan, quickly walking to his side and undoing the knot. Wen Zhe's gaze was wandering and uncertain as she said, since it's like this, then you all cannot leave. I want to see what would happen. The heart lamp is unafraid of the Luohun bell, but your comrades aren't. Don't let her cast magic. Chen Xing shouted. Attack! In the next second, Xiao Shan and Feng Qianjun rushed up at the same time, flanking Wen Zhe on both the left and right. Wen Zhe was halfway through casting the spell, but seeing that if she didn't dodge she would be killed on the spot by the two attacks, she could only flip again, dodging the blades and the claws. Feng Qianjun couldn't afford to give her time to cast magic, so he sent a successive series of attacks that way, and Xiao Shan also rushed over, his body in the air, whipping towards her with a backhand. Wen Zhe was being attacked from both sides, and she couldn't deal with Xiao Shan because of his insanely fast speed. In the beginning even Xiang Shu couldn't grab him, so how could Wen Zhe even keep up? 2 on 1. Do you still have any honor? Wen Zhe raged. Chen Xing was on the outskirts of the battle. He was afraid of getting closer, so he could only direct their movements from afar, and now he shouted, "Don't talk about the rules of engagement with her." Wen Zhe blocked again, and the bell tinkled for a second time. At that moment, Feng Qianjun and Xiao Shan both received a huge shock to their hunpo, and their eyes grew hazy and unfocused. Wen Zhe took this opportunity to flip onto the head of that azure jiao, gathering resentment around the Luohun bell in a vortex of black energy that began to swirl about. Chen Xing thought to himself that things were going terribly. With just another wave of her wrist, Feng Qianjun and Xiao Shan's hunpo would be taken. He could only risk his life by rushing into the array, throwing the rope with the hook at Wen Zhe. Wen Zhe easily evaded it, chuckling coldly, "Just with your amateur level of martial skills, you think you can?" At that moment, Feng Qianjun recovered. Chen Xing quickly made his choice, shouting, "Take the resentment from her." Feng Qianjun clasped his two hands together as the two blades flowed together in a new rotating form. With a single flick of his claw, Xiao Shan managed to pull over the mass of resentment wrapped around the Luohun bell. In that instant, the resentment powering that array burst open, with 1/3 going to each of the 3 artifacts. After Feng Qianjun absorbed the energy, he readied Sen Luo Wangxiang, but just as he was about to rush up, Chen Xing realized a severe problem. Sen Luo Wangxiang's effect was to let plants. Closely following, all of the Lihun flowers in the vicinity were affected by Sen Luo Wangxiang, and they opened their petals, releasing the pollen. Chen Xing, no, run quickly, achoo. Feng Qianjun, achoo. Wen Zhe, achoo. Xiao Shan, chew. The resentment dissipated as it was sucked into the 3 artifacts, and the array fell into a state of calm. Wen Zhe, Feng Qianjun, Xiao Shan, and Chen Xing all watched each other. Chen Xing, hey? Where is this? Feng Qianjun put down his blades. What am I doing? Xiao Shan. Wen Zhe said suspiciously, who are you all? End chapter.